Welcome to Attic Raiders Retro Reviews, where today we're heading deep into the jungle swamps in search of lost treasure. But just be careful and make sure that you don't step on the Croc, Doc. Don't Step on the Croc, Doc was released by Peter Pan Playthings in 1991 and is a 2 to 4 player game for ages 4 and up. In it, you play a jungle explorer who is searching for hidden gold. Now this gold is in the middle of a swamp in the jungle. Why it's here, I've got no idea, but it is and you want it. But you've got to be careful because it's guarded by hippos and crocodiles, and if you end up stepping on a crocodile, then you might end up in the water and losing the gold. You can see from the front of the box here we've got some hand painted artwork, and this is very much in the style of some of the Disney rip-off cartoons with block colouring and very little in the way of shading or highlights. I do like though that they've managed to get pretty much all of the elements of this game into the box art. We've got the skull, we've got the gold, we've got the crocodiles, the hippos, the explorers and the bridges. So everything that's in this game is on there. We've also got a nice little rhyming tagline. You need to be bold to get 3 bars of gold, but step on a croc and you're in for a shock. Also on the front it says no batteries required, and that gives us our first clue that although it doesn't need batteries, there is some kind of working mechanism in this. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I'm a bit of a sucker for an interesting gimmick. In order to see that, we're going to take a look at the back, and you can see straight away that this is a big 3-dimensional board. It's going to have a lot of table presence. Now although it doesn't have any batteries in it, it is going to have a clockwork mechanism, and we're going to look at that in much more detail later on because that's going to be really our main selling point of this game. Now this game doesn't come with any instructions inside the box. The instructions are printed on the back, and as you can see here, there aren't very many of them. So this is going to be really quite a simple game, but we already know that from the fact that it's ages 4 and up. I think it's time to take a closer look at this and make it snappy. The game comes with a standard D6 die. There are 12 plastic gold blocks, though obviously I'm missing one of them, and these are hollow inside so that they stack up on top of each other easily. There's one cursed ancient skull sitting on a little vegetation covered rock, and this is quite a nice little sculpt. We've got 4 Jungle Explorer playing pieces in 4 different colours. You can see that the detail on these is rather nice as well. Everything from the folds in his clothing and his helmet there to the buckles on his backpack. You can see that they are posed so that he is carrying something, and that has been designed so that these gold bars will stack on here quite easily and stay put as you move them around the board. The board itself is this big, chunky, 3-dimensional plastic piece, and it's really thick, good quality plastic. This is something that Peter Pan Playthings is well known for, if not for the quality of their actual gameplay. You can see we've got our 4 different coloured starting spaces, and we've got 4 different bridges which are on hinges so that they can move. We've got our swamp here in the middle, which is full of crocodiles and hippos, which are also hinged like those bridges so that they can move too. We've got our treasure chest in the very centre here, and we've got our mechanical switch which is going to activate our game gimmick. To set up our game, the Jungle Explorers go on to their starting positions, matching the colour of sticker with the colour of the playing piece. The cursed skull goes onto its pedestal, and the gold bars get piled up in the treasure chest. With everything set up, we're ready to begin. Now the object of this game then is to be the first person to get your Jungle Explorer into the swamp, collect 3 bars of gold and get back to your home base. This is a simple roll and move game, so we're going to roll the die to find out how many spaces we can travel. Each of the 5 bridge slats counts as 1 space, and you must enter the swamp onto a hippo. Once in the swamp, you must travel round in an anti-clockwise direction, moving from hippos to stepping stones to crocodiles to hippos to stepping stones to crocodiles, all the way around. If your move ends on a stepping stone, then you can take one of the gold bars and load it onto your Jungle Explorer's palette. If you end your move on a space that's already occupied, then you have to move forward one space into the next unoccupied place. If you end your move on a space that's already occupied and the space in front of it is also occupied, then you have to move back one space into the next available place. Each time that your move ends on a stepping stone, then you can load up another gold brick on top. At any point, once you've gone far enough around the swamp and collected gold, you can then choose to go back across the bridge to your starting point and deposit your gold here where it's going to be safe before heading back to get some more, or you can continue to go around the swamp collecting more gold before heading back. Continuing around the swamp until you've managed to pick up 3 gold bars before heading back across your bridge to your starting space to drop them off is definitely going to be quicker than dropping them off one at a time. However, the more gold bars you have got, the more unstable you are and the more likely you are to fall over and lose everything. Because if somebody ends up rolling and landing on a crocodile, then they're going to have to press down the skull and release the ancient curse. And if you fall into the lagoon and spill your gold, then all of your gold is going to have to go back into the treasure chest, and then you are going to have to go back to your starting space again. The mechanism activated by the ancient curse causes the crocodiles and the hippos to randomly open their mouths and snap them shut. Sometimes a mouth won't move at all and you'll be completely safe. Other times the mouth might open just a little bit, in which case if you've got no gold bars or only 1 gold bar, then you might be safe and not fall off. And other times the random mechanism is going to make that same mouth open really wide and you're definitely going to fall off. And the mechanism also causes the bridges to tilt, again either not at all, a little bit, or a lot. Eventually somebody's going to make it out of the swamp with all 3 gold bars, and when they do that, then they are the winner. As you can see, this is a very simple game. I suppose we shouldn't really be too surprised considering that it is only for ages 4 and up, but as somebody who enjoys strategy games, this doesn't really have very much in it for me. This is very much a roll and move game where everything is random and luck based. The only choice you actually make at any point during this game is whether to continue around the swamp to collect more gold once you've got one piece, or whether to come back across the bridge to deposit it safely. That's it. Everything else is laid out for you and is pretty much on rails. There's not a lot to do. I suppose in that way it's very much like Bridge Buster, which is a game that I reviewed very early on in this channel, but that I did really enjoy. The difference being here that Bridge Buster has a completely different mechanism in it that sends you back to the start. And that mechanism is really energetic and full of fun. The mechanism in this is interesting, but it's a bit slow and it's a bit lethargic sometimes. It doesn't have that energy to it that is really going to capture your imagination and make you enjoy this. I do like the randomness to it, that you either fall off, don't fall off because you wobble a little bit, or it opens its jaws completely and you deck it into the water, but it's just missing that something to make that mechanism, that gimmick, a bit more interesting. Now, as far as gimmicks go, because this is not electronic, it is purely clockwork, that gimmick is not really going to be random. Or is it? In order to be random with a clockwork mechanism, it's going to have some pretty interesting internal workings. But I suspect that it's just going to be a turning dial underneath there which activates the different jaws of the animals. And if that's the case, it's not really random at all. So I think we need to test this. As you can see, testing just involves labelling all of the jaws and activating that mechanism again and again and again, and observing which ones move and writing down those observations. If it is purely random, we'll never get the same ones activating together more than once. But if it is a sequence, which I suspect it is, then we'll start to see a pattern emerging. So you can see that my observations show that on the first press, jaws 3, 4 and 7 activate. On the second press, jaws 3, 5 and 8 activate, and so on through the list. You can see that they are very randomly spaced here, but there are only 12 different activations before they then start repeating again. If my observations are correct and the pattern holds, then the next press of the skull should activate 1, 2 and 5. Let's have a look. There you go. So the pattern holds. So the mechanism is not truly random, but it is random enough to look random and that you're not going to be able to learn the sequence. It's definitely going to fool 4-year-olds. So the gimmick is interesting in this, but it's not really enough to completely sell me on this game. The main thing is, this game is rather dull. As I said, roll and move, the mechanism is not that exciting, and you don't really have many choices. Let's take a moment to talk about the manufacturer's colour choices, because for me, if this rock section was cast in grey plastic and the bridges were cast in brown plastic, this would look straight away much nicer, because it would be more realistic. But the main issue for me is the colours of the crocodiles and the hippos, because if you end your move on a crocodile, then you've got to press down the ancient skull and activate the curse. The problem with this copy of this game is that the crocodiles are blue and the hippos are green, but our brains have learned that those animal colours should be the other way around. Hippos should be blue and crocodiles should be green. So when you're playing this, you really do have to look at the sculpt of the animal you're landing on, not just go by the colour that it is, because otherwise you're going to mess yourself up. It's just a very strange counterintuitive colour choice, and it's not one that's consistent throughout all the versions of this game, because I do know that you can get copies of this game where the hippos are blue and the crocodiles are green. So why they brought out one with the colours this way around, I don't know. Overall, it's not one that I would recommend, and this is quite a rare game, so it can go for high prices online. If you're a collector like me, then it's a bit of an interesting oddity to add to the collection, but if you're looking to actually play it, I really wouldn't recommend it. Maybe as a way of getting very young children into board gaming, but even then, there's better out there, and even the noise of the mechanism is rather annoying. So, while this one should probably slowly sink into the swamp, there are a lot more games out there, and we will be taking a look at some more of them next time. Until then, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you next time on Attic Raiders Retro Reviews.